Some people say our trade-in process feels too easy. They can't believe it's 100% online.
Значит, первое. Не должно быть транспортной системы на Украине. Не должно быть тоннеля под Карпатами. Не должно быть мостов через Днепр и так далее. Кстати говоря, не должно быть электричества. Замечательно. Банда, повторюсь, воров и убийц. Впереди у нас, как нам ликвидировать экономику Прибалтики, чтобы они успокоились и перестали нам, так сказать, досаждать. Поэтому, когда НАТО собирается, чтобы сказать, что мы их враг, это вы.
Alright guys, let's do this. Nobody else is gonna join. Anybody wants to join, let's go.
Cut off electricity to Ukraine, blow up bridges, destroy the economy of the Baltics, stop energy exports to the West. This is Russian television for you. Russian propaganda network. These commentators want Moscow to unleash its fury. What has made them so angry? NATO's expansion. 2 more countries are joining the NATO. The decks have been cleared, and this is a major political defeat for Vladimir Putin. His friend Recep Tayyip Erdogan has turned. Turkey has dropped its objections to NATO expansion. Finland and Sweden are set to be part of this military alliance, and it's happening in record time. Putin attacked Ukraine to send a message to NATO. He wanted to stop its expansion. He's accelerated it. He's given NATO a new life and purpose. So Russian propagandists are crying war. They want an all-out attack. Will they get their wish? Gravitas tonight, that's what we'll discuss. Yesterday's developments will go down in history books. Finland and Sweden have got their wish. They have been invited to join the NATO. They applied to join this military alliance in the month of May. We're still in June. Their appeal was held up by Turkey. You see, NATO has 30 member countries. Each one has a veto. So Finland and Sweden need a yes vote from each member to join the NATO. That is the rule. Their big hurdle was Turkey. Since day one, Turkey refused to back their bids. But yesterday, Recep Tayyip Erdogan dropped his objections.
In light of the progress we have made together, Turkey has agreed to support Finland and Sweden joining NATO. I want to thank President Erdogan, President Niinistö, and Prime Minister Andersson for the constructive spirit of today's talks.
So what changed there? Not too long ago, Turkey was dead set against NATO expansion. It accused Finland and Sweden of protecting militants. What made Erdogan change his mind? An offer he could not refuse. The NATO summit, is underway in Madrid. Yesterday, leaders of Finland and Sweden had a meeting with Erdogan on the sidelines. Also present was NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg. This meeting lasted for 4 hours. There were intense negotiations, and Erdogan walked away with a winning deal. Let's tell you what he got. Sweden and Finland had an arms embargo on Turkey. They will lift it. They will also end support to the Kurdistan Workers' Party. This group is also known as the PKK. Turkey sees them as terrorists. Even the US and the EU have designated the PKK as a terrorist organization. Finland and Sweden supported them. Now they will not. Then we come to the Gulenist movement, the groups led by Turkish preacher Fethullah Gulen. Erdogan blames him for an attempted coup in 2016. Finland and Sweden have agreed to end their support to the Gulenists too. And that's not all. Turkey, Finland and Sweden will expand anti-terrorism cooperation. European nations will extradite terror suspects to Turkey. So Erdogan has basically managed to tick all the boxes. Weapons, Kurds, Gulenists, terror suspects. He's had his way with everything. The Europeans have made significant concessions. The Finnish foreign minister said the deal was reached during a coffee break.
It was 4 hours meeting, of course, and very complicated in the beginning, and all parties repeated their own positions and how they see the situation. And then after 2 hours we felt that it's maybe not moving at all. And then we had a coffee break, and as always during the coffee break, great ideas come up, and then in the end, towards the end of the meeting, it was easier to come to the conclusion.
It's like each side got what they wanted. Erdogan, this is not just a foreign policy win. It will also help him in domestic politics, and we'll tell you about it in a bit. For the moment, let's focus on what NATO got. NATO has 2 new allies in the fight against Russia, Finland and Sweden. They meet all the requirements. They're democracies, they're reliable partners, and most importantly, they add to NATO's firepower. Let me tell you how. Finland and Sweden together have more than 33,000 soldiers, plus more than 230,000 reserve troops. What about weapons? Finland and Sweden have more than 800 tanks, more than 200 combat aircraft, and 170 patrol and coastal vessels. Separately, Sweden has 5 submarines. There are other advantages too. Finnish and Swedish forces conduct drills with NATO troops. Most of their equipment is compatible with what NATO forces have. So there is interoperability too. Long story short, the stage is set for their entry into NATO, and it looks like a win-win deal for all sides. What happens next? Usually it takes a year for NATO to add new members, but the applications of Finland and Sweden will be fast-tracked. Their induction is expected soon. Both nations also work with European partners to counter Russian disinformation. They're being seen as perfect additions to the NATO family. It also makes them a clear threat to Russia. We're still waiting for an official response from the Kremlin, but in the past, Moscow has warned these 2 countries. The Russian government has said that they should prepare for retaliation. They should be prepared. Finland shares a 1,340-kilometer-long border with Russia. Sweden does not share a land border with Russia, but Moscow maintains a military presence in the Baltic Sea, so there is a threat of an attack by Russia. Moscow has threatened to deploy more troops to the Baltics. Russian leaders are making grave threats. Former President Dmitry Medvedev has spoken out. He says Russia will secure its borders with nuclear weapons. I have that statement with me. This is what he said. In the event of such an expansion of NATO, the length of its land borders with Russia will more than double. We will have to strengthen these borders. The Baltic region's non-nuclear status will become a thing of the past. The group of land and naval forces in the northern sector will be seriously increased. So the signals are clear. Russia is in no mood to forgive Finland and Sweden. What about Turkey? That's in our next story. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.
A towed Russian carrier of cruise missiles, Kandela, in a strange state was spotted on the Volga. Russian residents spotted a Russian Project 21631 ByNM Project small missile carrier in tow on the Volga River. A few days ago, Russian residents spotted a Russian Project 21631 ByNM small missile ship on the Volga River. It was not possible to establish the ship's name because its hull number was painted over, as well as the ship's name. But characteristically the carrier of caliber cruise missiles has a very strange condition. In the pictures presented, taken by Russian residents, it is possible to see the moment the small missile ship is being towed along the Volga River. It is unknown at this time whether the ship was on its own or being towed, but experts have noticed some damage, at least of a cosmetic nature, on the hull of the ship. Moreover, the latter lacked radar and other elements, which raised a number of questions as to what kind of ship it was and where it was being towed. It should be noted that ships with painted onboard numbers have previously been spotted taking part in a special military operation, but so far it remains unknown whether this is a reference to the small
Finland preparing for possible Russian assault for decades. Yes. So happy, bro. Now Finland has promised to put up stiff resistance in case of a Russian attack in Ukraine.
Surprise many of you. I didn't prepare a speech. It's not because I didn't care. In fact, it's because I cared so much. You could imagine sitting down and trying to write something about someone that you feel so much about. The way I feel about John, it's very difficult. I won this prize 2 years ago, and I'm imagining, John, that this is a surreal experience. I imagine you probably didn't even give a till last night. And then last night, you saw all your friends gathering, you saw everyone dressed nice, and you realized he was still alive to see this. It's like getting a preview to your funeral. In our line of work, context is everything. And me and John have a very unlikely friendship. Context of that friendship happened in a comedy club, New York City. John being 10 years my senior. I was 17. The first time I saw Jon Stewart, right before he walked in the door, I heard two waitresses at the club talking about how handsome he was. And then they go, oh my God, there he goes. And I looked over and I said, hey, he's all right.
So what happened was at night, I would go to the Comedy Cellar and they put me on as the last guy every night.
There's 6 billion people in the world. You can't make 6 billion anything without some of them being very up. Open up a bag of potato chips. What are there, 40 in there? I think 5 of them are burnt, bent over.
It's the slot that they give someone that for some reason they think, let's just see what happens to this guy.
The thing I remember being 17 in an adult world trying to make something of myself is how kind he was. People like John made me feel safe. He's a friendly guy. Now, the early part of any comedian's career is embarrassing in hindsight because so many of us imitate our influences or try on different personalities to see what works. But John has been the same since the very first time I met him. Nice and present. In 1999, he got The Daily Show. That show languished for 3 years before he got it. No disrespect to Craig Kilburn, but you know what I mean? Yuck. It was like the body of the show was there, but when John got the show, it had a soul. It made people take notice. And in 2002, suddenly, somehow, he became the most popular news show on television. Actually, I know how. He had a good lead-in, Chappelle Show. In that context, it was post 9/11. My career was the first time that I can really remember that there was a stove too hot to touch. No comedian was allowed to talk about the war or Janet Jackson's titty coming out the Super Bowl. You remember that? You remember that memo that went around? As we've all learned in our lives, wartime is crazy in America. They do what Noam Chomsky called manufactured consent, and the news was off the chain. And John was the only voice that helped people decipher that madness. It was a really remarkable thing to watch.
We told you that it wasn't going to go so well. Yes, we called it shock and awe, but we meant that in the way of you'll be shocked at how it doesn't go so well. And that will make you say, oh.
He's been a great friend to me. I'm not here because I love Jon Stewart. I'm here because he loves me.